So let's jump into that jury instruction. And that's this one. California, Cal Criminal Jury Instruction 506, justifiable homicide in the context of defending against harm to person within home or on property. Now, remember when we looked at the statute here, that the statute says homicide is justifiable when committed in defense of habitation against one who manifestly endeavors by violence or surprise. And that's what this defendant in this case is relying on, this whole surprise issue. Well, they were entering surreptitiously by surprise. Well, when we look at the jury instruction, it reads, the defendant's not guilty of murder or whatever the charge is in any of the following cases. When resisting any attempt to murder any person or to do some great bodily injury. Okay, that's fine. That's straight up self-defense. But more important to our case, when committed in defense of habitation against one who manifestly intends or endeavors by violence or surprise. So we still have, back here to the jury instruction. The defendant's not guilty of murder or whatever the charge might be if the defendant reasonably believed that he was defending a home against someone who intended to violently, riotously, or tumultuously enter the home to commit an act of violence. Well, what happened to surprise? Surprise, the word surprise has disappeared from this jury instruction. But it's still in the statute. I mean, this is the current version of the statute, and this was how the statute existed at the time of this case. It says right there, by surprise. But when you look at the jury instruction, surprise doesn't appear anywhere in the parallel jury instruction on defending against harm to person within a home or on property. So, why is that? Well, we scroll down and we get to the bench notes. Here are the bench notes. This is not read to the jury. This is language that's intended to guide the trial judge and the prosecutor and the defense in properly understanding the jury instruction. And it points out, and this would have been written by the academics who developed, the academics working with other legal professionals who developed these jury instructions, who looked at the statutory language, looked at how the case law wanted that language applied, and noted that there was a disconnect. So they're pointing out the disconnect. And these academics tell us that Penal Code Section 197, which is the justifiable homicide section, subdivision 2, provides that defensive habitation may be used to resist someone who intends or endeavors by violence or surprise to commit a felony. And remember, that's what this defendant's relying on, that this youth who got shot in the face, he was intending to commit a felony by surprise, by surreptitiously breaking into my home to commit a burglary. However, the academics tell us, in People versus Ceballos probably, this is a 1974 California, I believe it's a Supreme Court case. Let me take a look. Yep, California Supreme Court case. The California Supreme Court held that the felony feared must be some atrocious crime attempted to be committed by force. Forcible and atrocious crimes are those crimes whose character and manner reasonably create a fear of death or serious bodily harm. Ceballos specifically held that burglaries which do not reasonably create a fear of great bodily harm are not sufficient cause for exaction of human life. Thus, although the statute refers to defense of habitation, Ceballos requires that a person be at risk of great bodily harm or an atrocious felony in order to justify the homicide. The jury instruction has been drafted accordingly to reflect the case law and not merely copy what the statute says. So what Ceballos effectively did was take out surprise. They read surprise out of that statute. Surprise is not enough. There has to be some threat of death or serious bodily injury to persons before the California courts will allow you to use justified homicide as a justification for taking a human life or using deadly force upon another person. So force readily capable of causing death, or in this case, serious bodily injury, a gunshot to the face. And helpfully, we have that course case linked here. So let's go take a look at the actual court decision. People versus Ceballos, California Supreme